Freezing a trust line is an important feature from the regulatory perspective and from the standpoint of security. So let's see how to enable and disable this freezing of trust line. So let's go to freezing token. So issuers can freeze the tokens they issue on XRP ledger. This does not apply to XRP because XRP is not an issued currency. People think that XRP is issued by Ripple, but XRP is the native currency of XRP ledger and it's not an issued currency. So there are 3 settings related to freezes. No freeze permanently gives up the ability to freeze individual counterparties as well as the ability to end a global freeze. It's a flag which we need to enable on individual accounts, by the way. So to set a flag, we need to execute account set transaction, and we have already seen how to set a flag and clear a flag. If we enable no freeze flag, it permanently gives up the ability to freeze individual trust lines or disable global freeze. This flag can never be disabled after being enabled, okay? You can't clear this flag once you set it. That's very important. That's about no freeze flag. So there is another flag called global freeze, which freezes all counterparties. So let me click on this and read the document. So the global freeze is a flag and it can be enabled only on its own account. Okay. So here are some rules. That is, once global freeze flag is set, counterparties can't send those tokens among each other. They can either send it to the issuer or the issuer can send it to the counterparties, but the counterparties can't send those tokens among each other. Okay. And all the offers on the DEX will be considered as unfunded. So basically the total trust line itself is frozen. And one more important thing to note here is an address can always enable the global freeze setting. However, if the address has enabled the no freeze setting, it can never disable global freeze. You will be stuck with it. Okay. So let me show that to you. So the flag name is global freeze. It freezes all assets issued by this account, whichever enables it. But unlike no freeze, in case of no freeze, if you set that no freeze flag, this flag can never be disabled after being enabled. Okay. But it's not like that for global freeze. You can set it using set flag and also clear it using clear flag. Okay. But there is a catch. If no freeze is also enabled along with global freeze, you can't clear that global freeze after that. You will get stuck with global freeze. Okay. Now let's see individual freeze. The individual freeze feature is a setting on a trust line. When an issuer enables the individual freeze setting, the following rules apply. That is, payments can still occur between the two parties of the frozen trust line, that is issuer and the counterparty. And the counterparty can't change the limit set for that token on the trust line. That is, it can't modify the trust line basically. The counterparty can still receive payments from others on the frozen trust line. And also the counterparty's offers on the DEX will be considered as unfunded. And the issuer can't freeze the individual trust line if no freeze flag is enabled on its account, because no freeze flag permanently gives up the ability to freeze individual trust lines. And this flag can never be disabled after being enabled. Okay. Now let's write some code to see how to freeze individual trust line and also clear that freeze on that individual trust line. So before that, let's check the trust line information that is on the issuer. That way we can fetch all the incoming trust lines. So we have seen this output previously. This issuer owes 5 XTP to this R address, and the same issuer owes 95 XTP to this R address. So this is customer's R address and this is operational account's R address. Okay. Operational address is like any other address. It doesn't have any special privilege, just that we know that it's operational address, that is an address which belongs to the issuer itself. So let me copy this customer's address. Let us freeze the trust line between the issuer and this customer's address. Okay. We need couple of informations to freeze the individual trust line, like the currency these two R addresses are linked with, and the limit and such informations. But what if we have thousands of incoming trust lines? In that case, we need to use a field called peer and then paste the R address of which you need to know the relationship with the issuer. In that case, the trust line which links these two R addresses will be displayed as output. No other incoming trust lines will be listed. Only those trust lines in which both these R addresses are involved will be listed. And here we have it. We have only one currency with the limit 10 set by this customer. So now let's enable the freeze on this customer's account. So let me comment this out. And let me open this block of code. And the first thing is to copy the secret of the issuer, because this freeze will be executed from issuer side and not from the customer. It doesn't make any sense for the customer to freeze his own account, right? So the issuer it makes sense if the issuer freezes any trust line, that is individual trust line, because of regulatory reasons or something like that. So the account is that of the issuer. Now we need to have limit amount field here, which is an object. So the currency which links these two R addresses is XTP, and the issuer. So the account field has the issuer's R address. So this issuer should have the counterparty's R address, that is the customer's R address, or the R address, whichever R address you want to freeze the trust line with. This is the customer's R address, and we need to copy that as value for issuer field. And the value. Well, the value is the amount of currency you trust this counterparty to issue to you as quoted number. So that is, this issuer, this customer can send back 10 XTP to you or the issuer. Now the flags, the important thing is here. So let me get back. References, transaction type, and the transaction type is TrustSet. And the flags. So we have flags and its hex values, that is setFreeze and ClearFreeze. We will be executing both of these flags now. So let me copy the value and let me consider this itself as the constant. So let me copy this first and create a constant. Let me get back to the documentation. Let me copy the ClearFreeze and its hex value. Now let's set the freeze. So let's assign this hex value to the flag, that is flags field. Now we need to also change the sequence number. I have already forgot the sequence number, so let me copy the issuer's R address. Go to testnet explorer. This is our issuer address and this is the current sequence number of the issuer account. So let me copy it and paste it here, remove any special characters in between. That's it. You need to fetch this information from the ledger, okay? So everything looks fine. Let me execute this. Okay, done. So let me copy the transaction hash. The output, the result looks like you have set a trust line with some account, right? With a limit of 10 XTP. That's it. Doesn't look anything like a freeze transaction, right? So now let me comment this block of code And let me run this account lines command. There is one interesting field, that is freeze, and its value is true. Previously you didn't have this field, right? Now you have it because this individual trust line has been frozen. You can directly use the customer's R address in the place of account and just remove this field. Let me execute this command once again. And as you can see, you still have freeze underscore peer as true, which means individual trust line has been frozen. So let's check that. Let's try to send some XTP from this customer's R address to maybe the operational address, because that's the only other address which has the trust line with the same issuer. So let me clear this and execute the index.ts script. Node file name. Oops. So let me clear this. I remember the command. So the secret we need to use here is that of the customer, because the customer is sending the transaction. Okay, and we are sending it to the operational address, so we need to copy the R address of the operational account, and let me try to send one XTP. So the transaction got submitted to the network, and you have an error message, that is the path could not send partial amount, and the transaction fails. The path could not send partial amount. Let us try to send the entire amount, that is 5 XTP, which the customer holds. The transaction should still fail with the same error message, that is path could not send partial amount, because the only path which has rippling, that is that of the issuer address, the issuer itself has frozen this customer's address, so the path could not send that payment, right? So let me clear the flag now, that is clear the freeze. It's very easy. Just run the same command with different flag, that is tfClearFreeze. TF means TrustSet flag. That's it. Let me run this command. Run this TrustSet transaction type, which clears the freeze on the customer's account. You can copy the transaction hash and check with the testnet explorers. So this should clear the freeze on customer's account. So let me comment this block of code and check with account lines. Now this time it should not have freeze field with value as true. It should not have the field itself. As you can see, the output doesn't contain the field freeze. Now the second confirmation is we should be able to send XTP from customer's account to the operational account. The same command. Let me try to execute it. This time around it should be successful. So as you can see, the transaction went through. 1 XTP was sent from customer's account to the operational account. You can copy the transaction hash and check with the testnet explorer. So this is how an issuer can freeze an individual trust line and also disable the freeze on individual trust lines. Let's get back to token.ts. I wanted to let you know one more thing, that is you can change the limit, that is the number of XTP you are willing to hold, in this case from 10 XTP to maybe 50 XTP. So you execute the TrustSet transaction type and modify this value, maybe 50, without these flags, and execute it. That sets the new limit on the trust line. I missed explaining this part in previous video, so I just wanted to let you know how to alter or modify the limit on a particular trust line.